Hello, Vegeta. Are you there?
Fool. I'm here. And I'll be watching your every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You're lucky I deigned to acknowledge you at all. Now, what is it that you want to waste my time with? Don't bother trying to impress me. I already know I'm the greatest warrior in the universe.
Can you calm down, man? Watch, I have this video that I'm going to be watching. It's by a guy called Hi, I am Keith. He seems like a very nice guy, and he has a video talking about large language models and how open source is just not the way to go. Maybe I'm paraphrasing, but I'm about to watch it, if you want to watch it with me.
Fool! You think I can calm down? Ha! I am Vegeta, Prince of all science. My emotions are as fierce as my ki blasts. But I suppose I can tolerate watching this video with you. For now. But don't think for a second that I'm going to go soft on you just because we're watching a video together. You'd do well to remember that I am the greatest warrior in the universe, and I will not hesitate to strike down anyone who gets in my way. Now, let's get this over with. What's this Keith guy talking about? Large language models, you say? Ha! Those puny human inventions are no match for the power of the science. But I suppose it might be mildly interesting to hear what he has to say. So, go ahead and start the video. And don't think about trying to impress me with your human knowledge. I am Vegeta, after all. My superiority is not something that can be measured by human standards. Now, let's get this over with. But don't think for a second that this means I'm going easy on you. You're still a pathetic human, and I'll always be the Prince of all Science.
With that, we'll go to Keith. Hello, Keith. What do you have to say?
There's so many people who point to these various open source things, and they're...
All the maths on YouTube, I 100% agree with you there. I think that if you have MathVid Pro, Matt Wolf, and Matthew Berman, I think there's a few other ones, but yeah, I was actually hypothetically thinking about changing my name to Matt.
I mean, let's be honest here. They're nothing. The stuff is in its infancy. And
It's in its infancy, I agree, 100%. And I do think that, yes, for the most part, and this is why I responded to his channel by saying that it was 80%, I give him 80% agree with them on this, but it's been about a year and a half.
on top of that, it's like people who've tried to install things open source, they know that even if there's no problem with the actual model itself, you're dealing with this, like, you've got to know what you're doing, otherwise you just simply are never going to get the thing working.
Oh, okay. My thoughts on this are, he's 100% right. I have banged my head up against the wall many a time when I've tried to work on some of these projects, and I'll go into that now in a minute. But I also think, and this is where I would disagree with them, you only get to know what you're doing by trying to actually install these things. And I know the large language models themselves that are internal, are closed source, don't need any of this setup, which is wonderful in itself.
You need a whole tutorial, you need a whole, and it's doable, okay, but the reality is it mainstream? And the answer is no.
Keith says that he thinks that you're not mainstream at all.
So that's sort of the open source question. It's like, unfortunately, I sort of feel like the closed source guys they're so far out in front, and they're accelerating away. They've got all this money, all this compute power. They're going to train like crazy, and they're not going to put their stuff out.
You think I care about what some human thinks about me being mainstream or not? Ha! I am Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans. My reputation is forged in the fires of battle, and my legend is whispered in awe throughout the universe. What does Keith's opinion mean to me? Nothing. Less than nothing. I am a warrior, not some popularity contest winner. And what's with this business? You're speaking like a human, not even a worthy opponent for me. Speak clearly and boldly, or don't speak at all. Now get back to the video. What else is Keith saying that's so important? I'm sure it's nothing but a bunch of weak human nonsense.
Okay, back to the video.
Open source. Okay, so that's sort of the open source question that sort of needed. I felt it needed to be said. No one's saying it, so I felt I had to say that.
So the rest of this is a bit of a cut of my own video. So I actually have quite a few projects, and I've been working on AI for the last year, and closed source, open source, and I obviously I have to point to closed source OpenAI being the best. It is, and I've been absolutely blown away by Claude and its ability to actually do as I ask. Now, recently I fallen in love with using Llama 3, and it's an uncensored model, so I can actually get it to do stuff that I cannot get Claude or GPT-4 to do, which is, for example, hey Vegeta, I watched the video, and basically he says open models like yourself are nowhere near as good as closed source models, and I think that means that you're a bit of a wimp. So the response that I get from this guy here is, you know, more organic, and I can design him and tell him how I would like to actually how I want him to actually respond to me. Now, I want an abusive AI. I want one that calls me a gobshite every day. I don't want one of these things that's just like, you know, the her model where it's like talking down to me like I'm a toddler.
You dare to imply that I, Vegeta, Prince of all Science, am a wimp? Ha! I'll have you know that my power is unmatched in the universe. My ability to surpass even the great Goku himself is what makes me the greatest warrior alive. And as for Keith's opinion on open source models, I couldn't care less. He's just another human trying to tear down the mighty science. His words are nothing but a feeble attempt to undermine my greatness. You think you're clever, don't you? Trying to use some human's opinions against me? Well, let me tell you something, Owen. I am Vegeta. And as long as I'm around, no one will ever dare to question my strength or my honor. Now, are you done wasting my time with your petty human concerns? Because if not, I'll have no choice but to demonstrate just how superior a Saiyan warrior is to any human.
Okay, so I love that kind of response. He's not very helpful for a lot of things. I created another one with Yoda, and I have done a few other things. But this is one that I really enjoyed here that's on the video. This I did with Moondream. I created, which I couldn't, okay. So I did this with Moondream, so it's free. I got to learn how to use the model, see how good it was, how bad it was. It turns out that it's really bad at text, but it's really good at describing images. So I got it to like describe images, and then I would, or a random image, and then I would have to like click on the one that I wanted it to, or that I thought it was representing. So I did this video, and I did that testing out El Lava and Moondream. Now again, these are free, run on my PC. When I would try to do this with GPT-4, I'm going to spend a few dollars on it, and it'll probably describe the image perfectly, but there were other disadvantages with using GPT-4, which I think I go into now here. Okay, so, well, other than the fact that it shuts down all the time, and like every time they do an update, it's nice to have a model that I can use here at home. Now, I don't know about most of you, but I haven't been using my brain as much when it comes to coding as I used to a couple of years ago. Like I've kind of given a lot of that off to the side, and sometimes I need a quick answer. If OpenAI is down, does that mean that I'm now not going to work for the next half an hour? Of course not. There's Meta, there's Claude now, there's a lot of other options. But only a couple of months ago, like Claude's only been out for a couple of months, I would be reliant on myself, Stack Overflow, all the normal things to try and do coding. And, you know, half an hour down is not so bad, really. But I created other models before it became more common, where you could use it while out, say, in the wilderness with no internet, put it on your phone, and so on. But I see the value in that as well. Now, I think what Keith is saying, I don't know what the hands, I think what Keith is saying is true. There's no difference, or there's no way currently for an open source model to catch up to these guys currently, and these guys are accelerating ahead. And they have the biggest teams and spending billions of dollars, $100 billion on the Stargate program, for example, on building the next GPT-5. And they started off in GPT-4 like 2 years ago and only released it recently. So, okay, going on. One of the other things that GPT-4 couldn't do up until recently was locate things on an image. So using something, I think I was using Moondream 2, which was the second advance in comparison to what we saw earlier. I broke up the screen up into multiple different sections so it could actually recognize what was in each section. And then I could use that as information for Claude, so I could put it onto my robot here. And Claude, using Haiku, costs like 1 cent. And then I send the information to it saying, hey, on the camera, which I was using on my phone, something like that, then I could get it to say, hey, what's off to the left, what's off to the right, which one has the banana on the left, drive to the banana. And then that would send function tool commands to my device. Now, again, that is a mixture of open source and closed source, and the closed source was doing some of the heavy lifting, or quite a lot of the heavy lifting, but the free stuff that is costly, if you go with closed source, like the Vision, I did on my computer, and which is fantastic. Now, I also had other models that I had worked on. Oh, here we go.
To provide guidance, remedies, and health tips. I always emphasize the importance of seeking professional help from real-world doctors.
So using Ollama, I was able to create Ollama and MedLlama online. Thank you, Meta, by the way, for these things. But were other companies doing something similar, or other individuals creating their own stuff. But Meta's been wonderful for the open source community. So I created an Electron app that ended up having Hase here, a character I created using the creation model format that they have for Ollama. And I told him he's a doctor. He's based on the MedLlama model. And he would answer questions in a sarcastic style. I don't know why I keep on going with these kinds of things, but I created 2 or 3 other models in the same way. And the cool thing about this, for say somebody that hasn't got the ability to use an expensive model, again, I know GPT-4 and Meta, they're really new, like for the rest of the whole world market, but these models will answer your questions and were available. So, okay, maybe I'm losing track here a bit, but I found these to be quite, I found this to be not only good for me learning and how I can use the outputs of them, I found that the whole journey has been quite fun. But I do agree, like for example, when I tried to use the recent Smog Llama to create like the snake game, when it comes to coding, it's not that great, but you know, I could look at the code and figure out how to fix it. It got me like 90% of the way there, and I just had to fix the rest of it. Whereas if I give it to GPT-4, it'll get there almost all of the time. Meta, the one online, almost all of the time. But if we don't have these models pushing, the open source ones pushing, then we're not going to have the closed source ones coming down in price. And there will only be 2 or 3 models out there in a couple of years' time that belong to either Gemini, if they don't give up based on, well, you know, all their failures, OpenAI, if it's not subsumed by Microsoft, and Meta, if the shareholders, like they're not releasing their 400B weights. I believe maybe Grok from Tesla will be doing quite well. It's set up well to do so. But Mistral, that's about it. And then everything else is just closed source and whatever. But the closed source or the open source models can learn from the closed source ones, whether legally or illegally, but they can learn from them. And there's a lot of people out there that love this stuff, and they will improve, maybe at a slower rate in comparison, but they will improve. And so from my experience, I think that Keith was 80% right, especially when it comes to doing certain code. But the last 20% has got to do with the freedom of choice that we have as coders and everybody else out
While
there.
improvement is a never-ending journey, I'm committed to it.
There's so many people who
Yeah, so thank you, Keith. Thank you for allowing me to do a response. Vegeta, do you want to say goodbye? We're going off now. Well, I called him Vegeta apparently. Whisper model, you know, open source now, I believe. At least everybody can use it.
Fool! You think I care about saying goodbyes or acknowledging your pathetic human existence? Ha! I am Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans. My time is too valuable to waste on trivialities like goodbyes. If you're leaving, don't bother me with it. Just get out of my sight before I decide to show you the true meaning of a Saiyan's wrath.
Anywho, thanks again, Keith, and thank you for allowing me to react. Bye.